Hello friends, this is Sarah. Welcome to another DInkum Build. We are not going to be building any kind of famous landmark or hot tourist destination. In fact, this build is super close to home. Literally, we are going to build a replica of my real life house in DInkum. I actually did this once before in Minecraft. When Animal Crossing got a little stale and there wasn't going to be any new content for quite a while, I got roped into playing Minecraft and ended up enjoying it, even though it's not typically the art style of the game I like. I liked being able to have so many options when it came to building. So one of the first things I built was a replica of my house, because, what better way to get started than on something you know? So I thought this would be a fun little project to do with you guys and create my actual house in the game, and you guys can tell me if I did a good job. We always wanted to build our house, buy land and build something that we really liked versus buying a house already pre-built, just because our style and tastes are pretty different than what the standard architectural go-to is here in our area. And so we had a long time to plan because we did not find the property that we currently live on for about 13 years. Of course, in the early days, we weren't exactly financially stable enough to buy property and build a house. So it's probably a good thing it took a while. It gave us some time to build our credit and save and all the things you're supposed to do as a responsible adult. And then, then you build a house, then you do all the things. Well, it took us a while, and it took us a while to find the property. We had some specifics that we wanted. We knew that we wanted it to be a certain size, and we wanted there to be trees. A lot of the property around here, it's pasture. And, if you're not familiar with that, it's like literally just a big open field with nothing. And I'm not a big fan of that look. I like trees. I like to be surrounded by nature and not just a barren field with grass here and there. So it took us a hot minute to find this property, and then it took us, about 9 months to build the house and move in. We did a lot of the work ourselves. We hired professionals to do the real things like plumbing and electrical and sheetrocking and foundation and all that stuff. But the finishes and the grunt work, we did a lot of that. And it was really the only way we could have afforded to build this house, honestly. I don't know how anybody does it without doing half the work themselves and afford it without having a massive mortgage. Am I right? Anyway, here in the game, I'm kind of testing out the architecture, how the basic framework of the architecture that I'm going to try to create here. Our house is kind of a modern Frank Lloyd Wright style-esque house. So we have like the central living space, which we call the tower, is a tall 20-foot ceiling room that's our family room, basically. And then the two wings of the house contain the bedrooms, the bathrooms, laundry, and kitchen. And so that's what I am working on here is the main tower family room area. And then going back and forth on this one side and trying to get the look of the wing where the kids all used to live. Now it resides one child, some storage space, and my office where I currently am. So a little terraforming because if we're being real, my actual property is not down in a little gully like this, but I didn't want to do a tremendous amount of like clearing out. This project was really just a break from the massive Grand Canyon build that Sunny Ann and I have been working on. And I needed to just take a pause from that and go work on something else that was not going to tax my brain too hard. Except that you'll see later that I can't math and it does, hurt my head. But, so yeah, you just saw me put down all that decking. And this particular item, if you're in creative mode, is like the palm bridge. It looks like a deck though. And this particular item in the game is bugged. One of the moderators on the DInkum Discord, after Sunny and I had used it and then we had some issues with it, we reached out to them, and apparently you can use it if you want to deal with the headache, but you have to put it in a very specific way. And you have to start at the very far, like southwest corner of whatever your build is, and then put it in from there. Otherwise, to the other person who's playing multiplayer with you, it'll look like this giant, tall pier that has like 20-foot legs. And that's not the look we were going for. So we fixed it real quick, and she had to do that on her island a couple of times. So that's why we were fixing it on mine, because she was like, oh girl, it's not looking good from my perspective. And I was like, oh crap. Okay, we got to fix it. So here is where I goofed counting earlier. Apparently I can't count. And I got off, and later on it really troubles me, because I'm like, why is this not matching up? This one's longer. This one's not at the same angle or something. And so, yeah, anyway, I got off counting at one point. It happens. You just get to go in, or you're chatting and you're dirt printing and you're not paying attention. And sooner or later you're like, oh yeah, okay, that's not going to work. That's not right. So, and that happens quite frequently in our builds. We have fun with it and we laugh at ourselves. It's like, what are you going to do? So yeah, our house is 10 years old. We built it in 2012 and moved in 2013. And so we just celebrated 10 years back in April. I really, really enjoy living here. It's quiet. It's in the middle of the woods. I'm surrounded by trees. And we built our house so that way, no matter where you stood inside, there was always a giant window or a door that you could look out of. So every perspective in our home, no matter where you're standing, is a view of outside. That was really important to us because, when you live in a pine forest, you want to be able to enjoy the view that's right outside your window. And a lot of people, they put windows in and then they cover them up with things. Well, we didn't do that. Our windows are all completely unobstructed. Of course, we live in the woods, so who's going to be back here to see? It does disconcert some people when they come to my house. It's like, you don't have any blinds or anything? I'm like, no. Yeah, we're just here. We're living. I really enjoy being able to look out any window and be able to see what's going on outside and, watch the wildlife pass by in some cases. So yeah, it's a really peaceful place to live. I'm a homebody, so that's kind of important that your living and surroundings are, a tranquil and peaceful place, and I'm grateful for that. So here's where I was talking about I could not math. I could not figure out what was going on. The main living space, the central tower, is offset. The wings on either side are offset from it. So I was trying to match the two sides, and it was just not computing for some reason in my head. Like, why is this side different? Because apparently I can't flip things visually in my mind. But here we are. This is what we're living with. And we're just printing dirt. I said that we kind of worked on this project in between the Grand Canyon build, and which was a lot of dirt printing. And here we are, dirt printing some more. But this is sort of in a specific pattern, whereas the Grand Canyon was very, because you're trying to make something natural or make it look natural, you have to do a little bit more. You wouldn't think it's as hard, but to do a natural build, I feel like you almost have to think twice as hard on how to make it look natural. So here in DInkum, you don't have the same architectural elements that you might have in other building games. So you kind of have to wing it when it comes to doors and windows and build these little outcroppings to sort of mimic that same look. So we tried our best. I'm really curious to see what you guys think when I show you the actual picture of my house. And hey, does it come out? Now, I didn't have a matching pathing tile that matched the paint color of the exterior of our house. So use some imagination there. This cement block was probably the closest I came to. So, and now we're just sort of decorating. We have lights mounted on the outside of the house, obviously, for lighting out on the porch. And I kind of had to think for a hot second how to make that work. And then I was like, oh yeah, I could just set some lamps down. Duh. since we can't hang anything on walls, I feel like that particular lamp style actually worked well because it kind of mimics a lamp fixture hanging on a wall. So, yeah. So what people assume is the front of the house is actually the back of the house. Currently, this is the front of the house where I'm working right now. But this is where people come in because that's where our driveway is. But it's actually the back of the house. The front of the house is situated towards the pond. We have a pretty sizable pond. It's about an acre in size, and it's home to quite a lot of wildlife. So that's always fun to see what turns up. But yeah, the back of the house is actually the front, which is always a little weird for some people. They're like, wait, what? I'm coming in the back door? Yes, you are. And make all the jokes you want with that. So our actual house is more on a flat piece of land than, where I decided to place it in DInkum. But again, I did not want to do a bunch of terraforming. This project was supposed to be something that was fairly easy and stressful, and I did not want to deal with compacting a bunch of dirt down or building a bunch of dirt up anywhere. So I just worked with what we had. Y'all can pretend that there's a big circle drive right here and not a big hill, because that's what actually exists in real life. So I had a lot of footage that I cut out where I'm, seeding the grassy areas or replanting trees, things like that. I'm trying to figure out what would be interesting to keep and what would be interesting, not what to take out, not interesting, but like the things to keep, the things to get rid of. Sometimes super repetitive behaviors, that's why some of this is really sped up, because it's like nobody really wants to watch all this, I think, in real time. I don't know that I would, to be quite honest. I lived it the first time around. And it doesn't seem to matter what I do or where I decide to build something. I always end up changing the dirt or the grass or something along those lines. But yeah, I wanted to open this area up so that you could see more of the quote, quote, pond, even though this is technically the ocean. But, again, imaginations, people. We're really working them. So I'm extending this little area out so that I can make my deck bigger. Because in real life, it's about this size. I tried to make it as close to the scale in terms of porch and house size and all of those things. It's kind of hard to do. I'm not an engineer or an architect. So I'm like, I don't even know if this is the right scale, but, this is going to be as close as it's going to get for me. Big brain ideas, right? So, yeah. Endless compacting to try to open this area up just a little bit so you could get a better view of the house. And again, I just go through and do a lot of tree planting and grass installation later. And some mowing, I think that I did keep in because, who doesn't enjoy a good mowing video? Does anybody go watch those on TikTok where the guy just kind of mows? He goes and cleans up a person's yard for free and does all this like edging and leaf blowing and mowing and cleaning out of, concrete, where the concrete meets. Or is it just me? Am I the only one that does that? Because I found something very satisfying and soothing about those kinds of videos. Maybe you find DInkum mowing and yard care also soothing. So enjoy. It took me a really long time to figure out to go into the build camera mode when shooting some of these kinds of things so that you guys get a much wider angle. And I'm embarrassed to say that it took as long as it did, because now I'm looking at this and I'm like, oh yeah, you get to see quite a lot of what's going on, and rather than just my character. So I'm going to keep that in mind for the future. Look at how fast I work, y'all. It's like I'm on speed. If only yard tasks went this fast in real life. The magic of editing. Our yard does actually have a gentle slope from the back porch decking area down into the pond. So I wanted to use the ramping to make that apparent, but when you build on the diagonal kind of like this, it's a little harder to do. So I ended up abandoning that idea because it was just not going to look right. And, sometimes you have these great ideas, but when you try to put them into practice in reality, it just doesn't happen. So you got to compromise and move on. So we have the string Edison lights that come off the house to a central point and light up the yard. It's great for parties and things like that. But I could not get that to work in the game. I couldn't make it look right, at least how I wanted it to look. So I ended up taking those down and just not using them at all. But that would be cool if I could attach some lighting to the house and pull it out into the yard like it exists in real life. Maybe one day. So now I'm putting the driveway in. We're going to pretend it's a driveway. I kept getting attacked by bush devils. There was like a nest. I thought I had cleaned all the nests out. And I don't know if that doesn't matter. Everybody talks about doggo dens. Don't break up the doggo dens. See, look. Rude. I was working. They come up and bother me. I tried to clean off the doggo dens. Not the doggo dens, but the bush devil dens. And apparently they just respawn regardless if you break down their little area. So if you know of a way to do it and I'm doing it wrong, please let me know. Because I'm totally fine with getting rid of every single one of those on my island. It'd be okay with me. So here we are, mowing. I kind of enjoy this little tedious task in the game. It's quite satisfying to make those little lines, like you can in real life in your grass, in your yard. So I left a little of this in because it's fun. Although sped up, it's a little dizzying. Sorry, guys. I'll keep that in mind for next time. So eventually, this is the other side. We do have a table and chairs and umbrella outside, but because I was trying to keep this deck proportionate, I could not fit a table and chairs in the spot that it's actually in on my porch. So I decided to improvise a little bit, tweak from reality. And we do have a barbecue pit and all that stuff out there. So I wanted to include some of these things, but I didn't want to junk up the front of the house and the view of it. So this is me kind of working within that and trying to make that happen. And I really wanted to get those festoon lights in there somehow. So whether it looks good or not, that's where they are. I extended this deck out because eventually in real life, we are going to push this side of the deck out and make a covered spot. Because currently we don't have really a covered area, as you can see. And I'd like to put maybe a hot tub out there. We shall see. I'd like to put a pool in too, but that's pretty expensive. People say, well, just go swimming in the pond. Yeah, you don't really want to do that here in Texas. It's kind of like Florida. There's going to be snakes or something in there with you, and not always a smart idea to just go jumping in any pond you see. If you value not getting bitten by something. So where these little planter boxes are in real life is a spot that we were going to plant plants in on both sides, but recently we had to cut down a bunch of trees, and this area is in the full sun for a significant portion of the day, and so it would require having plants that were a lot more sun friendly. And given that it has been in the triple digits already here in Texas, and we're not even halfway through the summer, I didn't want to have to deal with watering every single day. So it's basically like a rock garden, less maintenance. So here we're going to do a little tour. Basically we finished things up. This is what my house looks like. Pretty chill, pretty simple. I'm really happy with how this turned out. I think it looks pretty good. I enjoy doing little projects like this as a break from the big ones. It's nice to give your brain a break from the marathon projects that you work on, assuming you do that. But yeah, this is what it looks like in the daytime. And I feel like we got a pretty good representation going on here. And I've been trying to remember to do aerial shots of the builds that I build, and as well as the walking, and to try to kind of cover several times of day so that you can kind of see it in every light. Because sometimes these builds look prettier at night, and I forget that I should show them off at nighttime as well. Gonna chill on the porch and watch the sunset. Yeah, I really like this time of day in the game where it starts to switch from daytime to night. Look at that sunset, guys. Pretty good, if I do say so myself. I like how it looks at night as well. And popping those glow buttons here and there just gives just a little bit of light where you need it. All right, guys, it's going to wrap this one up. Thanks so much for watching. As always, be kind to yourselves, be kind to others. See you guys in the next one.